In this video, we look into Ed Miliband Sky News interview where he discusses renewable energy investments and China's role in the future of green energy. We also explore Angela Knight's response on TalkTV as she challenges Miliband's stance. Before we get into the discussion, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so that you won't miss our latest uploads.
Today's announcement from your department is about wind farms.
It's about really, excuse me, a very important investment that we are making through Great British Energy, our publicly owned energy company, £300 million that is being set aside in advance of the spending review so that we can build the supply chains in offshore wind, the factories that will manufacture the wind turbines, the blades, the base for the wind turbines. And there's a huge opportunity here, jobs for engineers and welders, construction workers. And it's part of our whole argument, which is this clean energy transition is about, it's an unprecedented economic opportunity, probably our biggest economic opportunity to contribute to economic growth. We want Britain to be the safe haven for the world, for global investors to come here, and we think we have a good chance of that happening.
At the same time, the other thing that's grabbed headlines this week relating to solar panels, and Chinese solar panels. You want to rule out any Chinese slave labour being used in items that are manufactured to reach the UK. Nonetheless, whether it's wind parts, solar parts or battery parts, Chinese supplies will be needed?
China is part of our global supply chains. In fact, they've got a very big role in global supply chains. That's built up over a long period. Absolutely, we don't want to use slave labour. What we're doing, though, is trying to build up our British manufacturing base. And this is really, really important. And this wasn't done in the past. You know, we care about making, buying and selling things in Britain. And so this investment that we're making today is part of that. But I'll be honest with you, that's not going to happen overnight. And look, part of this also, we've got a big international energy summit happening in London today and tomorrow, 60 countries represented, 50 global companies too. One of the things that we'll be discussing there is how we can have the supply chains across the world to give us the materials we need for clean energy. We don't want dominance of any country in these supply chains, but you know, making sure you have that diversity, given the position that we've inherited, is going to take time.
But I mean, various targets to hit, some quite soon, 2030. Yeah. China will be central to the supply chain by
China's got a really important role to play, but look, we're confident we can meet our targets. We're confident we can procure those solar panels in a way that definitely doesn't use slave labour. But there's a broader point here, which is Britain, just to take an example, has done reasonably well in offshore wind generation, but we haven't generated the jobs here. We haven't been doing the manufacturing here. That's what we want to change.
Is something linked to wind in particular? Regional pricing, if you've got wind farms or eyesores of that ilk near you, can lead to lower prices. I guess that would be the spin you want to put on it, but of course for many others they'll be saying they'll be paying relatively higher prices for energy. Is it fair that is going to happen?
So this is a very complicated issue that you're referring to that my department is looking at around so-called zonal pricing. Look,
Exactly right. And what he doesn't do as well to reduce the prices is to admit that maybe we should actually produce more of our own fossil fuels. I mean, he was very sure yesterday at this summit, this energy security summit, that was not the way forward. And he said that it would not actually make energy prices any cheaper if we increase fossil fuel production, which is wrong, first of all. It was disputed as well by energy envoy from the US, Tommy Joyce, who said absolutely ridiculous to say that, because of course it would. You know, if we drilled for gas and oil in the North Sea and had more of our own energy, we wouldn't have to pay so much for it. Similarly, if we fracked, we wouldn't have to pay so much for the gas. You know, there's all manner of things that he could do, but he's not doing.
No, he's not doing. What he says is that we will always be caught by the world price for gas and world price for oil in this country. He calls us a price taker, not a price maker. And then the second aspect about it is, of course, if you are bringing up your gas locally, you haven't got to pay all those shipping costs. You haven't got to pay for what amounts to liquefying it first, putting it in tankers, bringing it a few thousand miles across, then gasifying it in this country. You don't have to pay that either. So the overall cost is actually cheaper, and the overall, what should I say, reduction in pollution is cheaper because you haven't got it on a diesel ship. The problem with Ed Miliband is that he's become a fanatic. And when you've got a fanatic in charge, they get narrow and narrow on their focus. And his is, we will have wind and renewable energy, and that will be good, and that will bring the price down.
Net zero is proving to be a disaster for the UK. It is causing a gradual decline in the living standards for most people. And although the government is seeing the effects, they have not stated any plans to make the changes that would lead to a noticeable reduction in gas and electric prices. Lower gas and electric prices could trigger a ripple effect, reducing costs across the board. This would boost the economy by attracting more investment and creating new job opportunities. Why can't the UK drill for its own oil and gas instead of being dependent on other nations? This is mismanagement of the country's readily available resources. As Dr. Miles Monroe wrote, whatever you mismanage, you lose. If as a leader, you repeatedly mismanage public resources, impoverishing the people, voters will no longer trust you, and they are left with no choice but to vote you out. You lose. If you have benefited in any way from this video, please subscribe, like, share, and be sure to leave us a comment.